He-Man brings in the strong arm of Eternia. Here's your look at the Mattel Masters of the Universe Origins, Fisto. Modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe action figures. Masters of the Universe Origins gives you the power to pose Eternia's greatest warriors as retro-style figures or in the new action-packed battle positions. Bit of a questionable name. Before we get a closer look at Fisto, the first thing we're going to want to do, of course, is to figure out how tall does the figure stand. We're going to take the tape measure right to the very top of his head, and we're going to stop it right there. If looking at this correctly, then you're looking at Fisto being 5.8 inches in height. Switching that over to centimeters, you're looking then at the figure being 14.7, so it's a little over 14.5 centimeters tall. Following then up, we can do a couple of comparisons. Not size comparisons necessarily, because really all these figures are going to be using the same bodies with a few exceptions. But certainly for other comparisons to previously looked at Masters of the Universe Origins figures, there's Fisto next to the most powerful man in the universe, He-Man. We can also bring in the likes of Man-at-Arms. We don't bring him in nearly enough. Let's bring in Many-Faces. Apparently he looks like a monster right now. We can also bring in Teela. Slightly different body. And also, speaking of a slightly different body, here's Fisto next to Orko. It's actually a good thing I'm bringing Orko back in as a comparison, because one follow-up I wanted to do for the figure, let's just remove him off the ball joint for right now. Somebody had asked me, I did comment when we had a look at Orko that I thought his head left too much of a gap between the top of his head and the collar piece of his scarf. Somebody had asked me, did you try pushing down the head all the way? Well, I thought I had done that, and just pushing it a little bit more further, giving a lot more force than I thought I would have had to do. Sure enough, I was able to get Orko's head a lot further down into the scarf area. So now his head looks a little bit better than it did when we first had a look at him. Let's get him back on his display stand. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, Fisto, of course excluding his strange name now, does fit quite well in with the rest of the Masters of the Universe Origins figures that we've looked at before. Checking now out the accessories that come included with the figure, you get first an instruction sheet. You know my feelings when it comes to this. I feel it's just a waste of paper. Why did they even have to print this on? It's just to show you that all the things marked in gray are things that can be removed from the figure and swapped out with other Masters of the Universe Origins. Like his head, like his arms, like his lower half via his furry underoos and his lower fur boots can all be popped off and swapped out with another Masters of the Universe Origins figures. I guess it's there for people new into this collecting world. I don't know, it just seems like more of a waste of paper than anything else. Gonna put that to the side. He also comes included with Sucker Punch. No, not that Zack Snyder movie, Sucker Punch. I don't think that was really a bad movie. I don't get why people hate that so much. Anyways, he comes included with a comic entitled Sucker Punch. You can see that Fisto apparently is investigating. It looks like arrow tips have found their way attached to... It almost looks like a monster's face, doesn't it? His eyes... It kind of looks like he's shrieking. Ah! I'll leave that with you. You guys can think about that for the rest of your day. Anyways, he apparently isn't aware of the fact that He-Man is standing above him. Or is that really He-Man? You'll have to look inside the comic to find out. He's got a big giant swinging club. Good for swinging. You can see right above his head. Looking at the inside of the comic, sadly, to report here that I've got myself the international version of Fisto, which results then in having the comic panels void of dialogue or descriptions as to what's actually going on. Wait a minute, why is He-Man piloting the land shark? Well, if you use your imagination and follow forward with the panels, you'll see that it is not in fact He-Man, as one giant swing landed by Fisto reveals that He-Man is actually Faker. And actually to the point where Skeletor's got several Fakers. Man, I really wish that Master Universe Origins Faker came included with an Origins head sculpt. Anyways, on the back, you can also see, speaking of which, there's Faker right there. There's He-Man, Faker, Skeletor, sporting, I might also say, the original head sculpts and not the Origins head sculpts. It almost seems like they're really trying to get away from using these Origins heads. There's also Fisto, Evil Lyn, and Merman from the Lords of Power line. So again, all those other reviews, if you guys wanted to check those out, I've done reviews on all of these except for the He-Man and Skeletor with origins, non-origins head sculpts. You can check out those reviews if you want. Shameless plug. I'm going to put that to the side. The one other thing that comes included with Fisto, he comes included with a sword. Now, if the sword may seem familiar to you, it's because you're very clever and you have a good memory. It's also because of the fact it's the same sword that came included with Triclops. Masters of the Universe figures, even the ones from the farthest years from the 80s, all seem to use the same reusing of body parts. So it was common. It's not to say that we would be crying foul now that saying Masters of the Universe Origins figures, they're reusing parts. Masters of the Universe figures always reused parts. Well, you can see there's nothing really different between this one and the purple sword. It almost feels like it's a sword that belongs with Skeletor, not necessarily Fisto. Anyways, you can take then the sword and fit it into his hand. But I will tell you, not to be the bearer of bad news, but you can't put it into this hand right here. It only fits then into this side. At least one good thing is you don't have to spend the afternoon trying to ponder, which hand do I want to put it in? No, they've decided for you that you can only put it on the one side. The other side, of course, includes the big giant fist. Good for, well, giving people knuckles sandwiches, as you can see right there. One thing I do want to make as a correction, and for this will involve me bringing in another He-Man figure. Here he is next to Mr. T. Why am I bringing in Mr. T, you may ask? Well, actually, let's give him a stand here. When I had a look at Mr. T, I assumed that that hand right here, the one that is removable, was going to be the one that came included with Fisto. I then also made the assumption that the other hand, being a karate chopping hand, would have been the one that would have come included with, what was his name? Jitsu, that's right, Jitsu. But unfortunately, though, it doesn't seem like it's the right hand at all. It's a different hand altogether. And while this hand was removable, the one that comes included with Fisto isn't. Well, it is, but if you remove it, you're essentially just getting a ball peg underneath that. So it's not the same hand that came included with Mr. T. Corrections for that, by the way. Getting a closer look at the head sculpt, though, on Fisto, it's a nice classic-looking style head. I mean, really looks like his vintage counterpart. When finally Fisto arrived to my doorstep, I was excited because it was like the last figure I've been waiting to get in my collection. And when I looked at him immediately, the first thing that popped in my head was, what if they did a collaboration with Brawny, the paper towel company? They, of course, changed his armor into be more of a plaid armor. And then they kept really the face the same. They probably could even just lighten it in red. And they called the character, wait for it, Brawn E. I know it didn't take very much to come up with that idea, but I would love to see this guy get customized or re-released as a limited edition paper towel Brawn E. Who would be on board picking up a Brawny? He could maybe even have a big giant paper towel or a club. I don't know. Brawny. I thought that was a fun idea. Anyways, looking at the head sculpt, not of Brawny, but of Fisto. He does have, like I said, a really good head sculpt. His beard, unfortunately, doesn't complete the job. You can see the bottom of it doesn't attach to the top. But I think the original vintage head also had the same problem. Big giant caterpillars, as you can see, for his eyes, and eyeballs painted also the same black. He does have the armor piece, which basically is just an extra piece that sits over top of his body. But when we did have a look at Mr. T, and again, it's not the same body, but Mr. T would have used the same body armor as King Randor and also Jitsu. So even though we don't have a Jitsu yet, I'm sure they're probably going to be using this body for that figure as well. Again, like the problem with it, though, is that the armor sits then rather loose. When you are putting it on the figure, you can see it sort of just rattles around. You technically could detach it. The problem with it, though, is I feel like it's going to start breaking the little loop clasp. But if you just detach it, you're essentially getting just a regular master's body underneath. See that? At least it is finished. I mean, it would have just only involved the molding the plastic, so it's not like they ended up having to paint it. But as you can see, it's your traditional master's body underneath that. Let's go ahead and clasp that back into place. Just loop them into the sides and just very carefully. Let's just bring his arms out of the way. His arms are right now in the way. Just tuck that in and tuck the other side in there as well. With these armor pieces, I'm never inclined to really want to take these off. I only do it for the review, but they always end up just staying on the figure. The paint's pretty good on this guy overall. You see on the back, it's got the alternating stripes of purple and silver, and that's pretty cleanly painted, I would say. The front also the same. Yes, a little bit of the silver on mine, unfortunately, has overlapped itself onto the purple. They probably could have touched that up a little bit. He has the same matching silver, though, in his big, giant fist hand, as well as the gauntlet that's on his other arm as well. Looks like he's going for a stretch. The lower half is still your traditional He-Man body. If you really wanted to, also one thing that you could use. Somebody had recommended doing this route for, what was his name? Keldor. If you didn't like the original Keldor boots, you technically could take these boots off of Fisto, because I would imagine Fisto is probably a little bit more of a peg warmer. Pop these off. You could replace then these boots with the ones that came included with Keldor, just if you didn't like those existing boots that he had. The purple at least matches the purple that's on his belt area here, and of course he's got that furry loincloth. Nice looking figure overall. For the articulation on Fisto, his head rotates all the way around. It hinges up and down and, of course, back and forth. Traditional articulation, of course, on all these Masters figures. The arms hinge out at a 90-degree angle bend. You can rotate then the arms all the way around. Single bend at the elbow, right there. You can rotate the forearm around that hinge joint. And I guess technically you could also rotate his big giant fist as well. His upper torso is just on a straight swivel. You can bring the legs out as they are ball jointed. There's the ball joints. Why do I always feel inclined to point out the groins of these figures? Gotta really stop doing that. The legs go forward, the legs go back. They have a bend at the knee. You can rotate the lower leg, and you can also rotate the boots, which I will say is loose on Fisto. And you can also hinge them back and forth as well. I might even try to find myself another Fisto, because again, I don't think a lot of people are saying, oh, we've got to track down these Fistos. Everybody is getting these Fistos. I would imagine you probably could find these at pretty cheap after a while. It's probably filling the pegs. I probably will get another one of these, pop the legs off, and maybe swap that out with the legs that came included with Keldor, because I really didn't like the boots on that one. I think the boots look a lot nicer on a character like Fisto. Overall, though, a nice looking character. Just again, I would suggest to Mattel, if Mattel is watching these videos, I don't know if they are or not, but I would certainly say, collaboration with Brawny. Release this guy as literally Brawn-E. Brawny. He's the lumberjack of the Eternian fleet. I think that would be a fantastic idea. Fisto looks much like his classic counterpart, big giant fist. A sword that, of course, was pulled from Triclops, but still a nice looking figure to go along with the rest of your collection. Brawny. I'm sorry, I would be so on board the idea of Mattel releasing a very limited release paper towel tie-in Brawny. Though there will be Brawny historians out there that will correct me and tell me that Brawny really was always either clean-shaven or he was more notably known for a big giant Tom Selleck mustache. So I suppose right there, that throws and debunks my idea of releasing a paper towel tie-in character. You did it with Wonder Bread. I really feel like there's a missed opportunity to not collaborate with the Brawny paper towel company and release Brawn-E. You wouldn't have to even say dash. You would just say Brawn-E. He's the lumberjack for the Eternian guards. Brawny aside, because I could certainly talk the whole afternoon about the character, you'll see featured on the back of the packaging is the rest of the characters that make up this lineup. Fisto now successfully finishes off the rest of this line that we were able to look at here on this channel. You'll see, though, the stellar artwork that the folks over at Mattel have presented us at the very top of Fisto's packaging. Still eluding us, though, on the top, you'll see that he's fighting Jitsu. We still don't have a Jitsu yet, but the fact that Jitsu's armor was already used for Mr. T, you gotta think, at some point, Jitsu will be making an appearance. I don't feel like I want to champion it too much, because now when he does get eventually released, everybody's gonna be like, yeah, that reviewer guy has been going on and on about wanting to get Jitsu. I really don't. It's just the fact that we've been teased frequently by getting a Jitsu, and we don't have him yet. What do you guys think of Fisto? Let me know down below in the comments section. And what other company collaborations would you like to see Masters of the Universe Origins tie up with? And what would be the name of that character? That's your video question for today. Brawn-E. It sells itself. If you guys are new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and turn, of course, the bell notification on. Keep your peepers peeled, because we will be looking at more Masters of the Universe Origins figures, as well as other reviews also coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.